I'd like to thank you for inviting me on the show. It's such an honour to be here, and I'd just like to say that when I'm not playing Xbox with my mate Thor, I really like to listen to my favourite podcast, Pop Culture Pasta. Hey Dave, I'm thinking about doing another revolution. Do you want to join up? I might need some help with organising the pamphlets though.
Pop Culture Pastor.
Alright, Cody, we haven't talked in a while.
We haven't. The last I heard, you were about to get stampeded by a herd of buffalo.
News travels fast in the Wild West.
It does.
So I went to Yellowstone National Park. I took in the Grand Teton National Park. I took my 3 oldest there with my mom, and we were basically out in the wilds in the Old West with the bison. There's a lot of bison there.
Did you see Kevin Costner?
Kevin Costner was not anywhere to be found, but I did see lots of Yellowstone merch, as you might not be surprised. Like we stayed near the town of West Yellowstone. It's a very small town, but it's very touristy. A lot of shops, a lot of souvenir shops, and almost all of them had Yellowstone paraphernalia.
If you didn't buy a Beth Dutton shirt, what were you even doing?
There was a shirt that said, I want to be Beth Dutton, something along those lines. To which I thought to myself, who would want to be Beth Dutton? No, you don't want to be Beth Dutton.
A lot of us think we do.
This is Pop Culture Pastor, the podcast. My name is Dave. Cody is here.
Yes, I am.
Cody's been here. He's been holding down the fort.
I did leave temporarily.
Oh, where'd you go?
To the Little Apple.
Oh, Manhattan, Kansas.
Yep.
Often called by its students who go to Kansas State University there, Manhappiness.
I call it Manhappening.
What were you doing in Manhattan?
Therapist conference.
Oh.
So rubbing elbows with therapists all across the state of Kansas and doing breakout sessions and learning new therapeutic modalities, that sort of stuff. So
yeah, it's that time of year because I had a chaplaincy conference that I went to. And so that was a thing. Yeah. I'll give you this question before we do the lobby. We're not doing the lobby this episode, but someone already gave us a lobby question, but it's more relevant to what we're talking about.
Okay.
Lauren wanted to know what you do when I'm gone.
Well, that's a good question. Some people like to know what I do when you're here. So
he does a lot.
I do a lot. I'm still associate pastoring, still therapizing. I recorded another podcast episode with my dear friend Scotty for Time Lord Academy. I need to upload it.
Oh, yeah. So we can't direct people to it yet.
Well, you can watch some of the old ones. Watch and or listen. We do have a video one and soon to be 2.
There you go. Yeah. All right. So that's what Cody does when I'm not around. He's still creating content.
It's what I'm about.
The Time Lord Academy podcast.
Yes. If you're into Doctor Who.
All right. So there's a few news stories we got to get to here before we get to our main topic later on in the pod. But there's a couple news items that I thought were important enough for us to talk about. The first of which this was kind of surprising news. We were just talking about this a couple pods back. The lanterns.
Yeah.
The Green Lantern Corps, as we were calling it. Now, the DC series that they're coming out with, it's going to be on Max, right? HBO Max. They're calling it Lanterns. They have found the actor who's going to play Hal Jordan. I just talked about him because I drafted him on our last pod.
You did.
In the pop culture draft, I drafted him as Coach Eric Taylor from Friday Night Lights, but Emmy winner Kyle Chandler is set to play Hal Jordan of the Green Lantern Corps in the series Lanterns. That's what sources are telling the Hollywood Reporter, by the way.
Allegedly.
Cody, what do you think of this casting?
Honestly, everything I've seen him in, I've liked him in. I also think that, because rumors are it's not really going to necessarily be Hal focused.
Mm-hmm.
That John Stewart may be the chief or main Green Lantern in the Corps,
And and Hal's kind of the mentor.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I like that casting. I think that he fits that role well. With him being Coach Taylor before, we've seen him try to mentor the youths before. And he does a good job. Very believable.
Yeah, I agree. I think, obviously, I love Kyle Chandler because I talked a lot about him in our last pod and his role as Coach Eric Taylor. I think he's a great actor. It is an interesting choice that tells you a lot about what they're going to do with him by the choice of actor. He's an older guy. I mean, he's not super old, but he's not young. He's not what Ryan Reynolds was in the Green Lantern movie. And so you're going to get an older Hal Jordan. And yeah, like Cody said, the rumors are is that some of the other Lanterns are going to be more your main focus, and Kyle is going to play a mentor type Hal Jordan who's been around for a while.
I did see Scuttlebutt that allegedly there had been 5 actors that passed on the role, primarily because of how Ryan Reynolds tanked as that character and some of the past DC issues before this studio. Yeah. I don't know if it's true or not. I just saw it and I'm like, like the Ryan Reynolds thing, honestly, if Deadpool wouldn't keep bringing it up, I wouldn't remember it. So that's kind of off on its own.
Did you watch that Green Lantern movie? Did you watch it?
Not in its entirety.
Okay. Because my question would be, why do you think that failed?
Having read some Green Lantern in my day, not a lot, but some, if you go too Ryan Reynolds-y with it, you've lost the essence of that character. Like, yeah, there's some quips that you can make, but if you go full Deadpool, which is what Ryan Reynolds and Deadpool are doing now, like, I don't think it works. And also, like, the graphics were weird.
Yeah. Well, okay. I'm gonna use a sports metaphor here.
Please do.
When you're playing defense in football and you're out on the end, either you're an outside linebacker or you're a defensive end, and your job is to contain the quarterback, but also to maybe drop back in coverage.
Yes.
When the quarterback leaves the pocket to your side, you have a decision to make. You're either going after the quarterback or you're dropping back into coverage, but you got to pick one. You can't get caught in no man's land. The worst thing you can do is not make a decision. I think that was the problem with that Green Lantern movie, because they either should have made Ryan Reynolds play it straight, like just be Hal Jordan,
yes,
or go full Ryan Reynolds and just make it absurdist. They should have done one or the other. Instead, it's like this kind of Ryan Reynolds, kind of serious, and it just feels weird and awkward. And yeah, it was kind of a weird movie for me. I think it's genius to do the Green Lantern Corps stuff as a series rather than a movie. I think this is in fact, I remember talking about this. I think I called this. I think they should have led off the whole universe with it, but I think this is great.
It'll be early on in the universe though, so
yeah. So that's good stuff. Kyle Chandler, great choice, I think. The next item, and this is kind of a weird thing because we don't usually talk about this, but are you aware of the game Cards Against Humanity, Cody?
Very familiar with it, yes.
Adult party game. How do you even describe this game? It's
So,
sort of like Apples to Apples.
I was going to say it's an adult version of Apples to Apples.
Yeah.
With more risque content on the cards.
Yeah. So apparently back in 2017, they bought some land on the border, the United States side of the U.S.-Mexico border. And they did it for a very specific reason. To meddle with the plans of former President Donald Trump and his wall he was going to build. Now, we don't get into politics a lot. So I'm presenting this straight up. I don't really care about the politics. I'm just telling you what happened. They posted on their social media accounts recently that they have filed a $15 million civil lawsuit against Elon Musk's SpaceX. So apparently, while their land that they had bought for this political reason was vacant, the lawsuit claims that SpaceX, who owns a neighboring property, started like storing their junk, like all their parts and stuff. And they had a picture And I don't know, you never know what the pictures are, if they're accurate or what you're looking at.
Yes.
But they posted on their social media, they put it out there, and they're suing SpaceX, and they had a lot of colorful language, of course, because it's Cards Against Humanity. Basically some bad words, and that they're suing him, and they're suing him because he's basically a conservative. That, I mean, in so many words, is that what they said? Can you back that up?
They definitely had a negative disposition because of who he supports politically.
Yeah.
That's how I'll word it.
How do you see this? Because to me, well, let me wear the cynical hat that you usually wear. The cynical part of me is like, okay, you're making a political statement again, and you're getting free advertising from it. So basically, the demographic you already have, you're appealing to them because you know that they're with you. You're on the more liberal side of things, and they're just it's sort of a money grab. It's sort of just free advertising, and they'll probably settle out of court, I'm guessing.
That would be my guess. I did find the quote.
You found the quote?
We bought a plot of land on the U.S.-Mexico border to stop racist billionaire Donald Trump's dumb wall. But this year, an even richer, more racist billionaire, Elon Musk, forgot that land, or there's a word instead of forgot.
Right.
Land with gravel, tractors, and space garbage. So we're suing.
Yeah. And what I would say is, yeah, I mean, this is a political move, and that's fine. Just don't pretend that you're doing it for any other reason than just making hay advertising and all that.
They do kind of try to prompt themselves up as altruistic, even though they're cynical and very pessimistic.
Yeah. And the land was vacant. Like, there's no one on the land, and you only bought the land to make a political maneuver. That was why they bought the land. They admit it in the statement.
Yes.
They just did it to mess with their plans. So whatever, it is what it is. This is what our culture has come to, though. It's this weird sort of battle and wrestling match between political ideologies where everyone pretends that they're worse than they actually are. Can I say that? Can I say to both sides of our political thing that the side you disagree with isn't nearly as bad as you're making them out to be? Is that a thing I could say and not get in trouble?
And probably that we're not as good as we think we are on our side.
Oh, well, that's the easy one for sure.
That is.
But then we're going to make everybody mad. Last story, and I just thought this was cool. Are you aware that in the Capitol, the United States Capitol, each state has 2 statues?
Hawaii's are super heavy. They had to put beams, like extra supports, under Hawaii's.
Why?
I have been to the Capitol.
What? Why? Who are they of?
One's of a Hawaiian chief.
Did they just use heavy metal?
It's big. It's a big statue, and it's very heavy.
So you are aware of this. You've been to the Capitol. You know that they have, each state picks 2 icons, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, I don't remember who Kansas picked.
But they're represented by 2 statues. Oh, that would be interesting. I'd like to know who's representing Kansas. But this is about Arkansas. And so they used to have Uriah Rose and Senator James Clark used to represent Arkansas, but they were replaced in 2019.
Oh, you can replace them?
Well, yeah. So that was the time when, so one of them was in the Confederacy.
Oh, that would do it.
Yeah. And so they were replaced with civil rights activist Daisy Bates, who mentored and supported the Little Rock Nine. And the second one was recently put up. It's Johnny Cash.
Hey, I thought that you were going to tell me it was Bill Clinton.
No, it was not Bill Clinton or the guy I would have picked, the Arkansas basketball player. When they won the national title, who was that? It doesn't matter. Scotty Thurman was on that team. But who is Corliss Williamson? Yeah. I would have picked Corliss Williamson, but he probably wasn't from Arkansas.
I would have picked the creator, inventor, and overall wearing guy from Walmart.
Oh, Sam Walton?
Yep.
Yeah. I don't think he's that
Capitalist Cody.
I don't think Sam's actually that popular in Arkansas among the common folk.
He dressed like the common folk, though.
People get mad at Walmart now.
Well, they made money, and you continue to shop there. You can stop.
I was going to say that you were right. Williamson is from Arkansas.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he was the man. They used to call him the Big Nasty back in the day.
The Big Nasty. Yeah, that was right.
Yeah,
that team was really good.
Yeah, they were good, and I think he's coaching in the NBA. I can't remember for who.
That was Nolan Richardson's teams.
Yeah,
40 Minutes of Hell.
Yep,
That was their big
He
thing.
just went back about 2 weeks ago and spoke to the team.
Oh, very cool.
What's his name is there now?
Yeah, I can't argue with Johnny Cash,
Yeah, Johnny Cash is good.
but you could replace the civil rights leader person.
No, we are not doing
I'm just
that.
kidding. Just kidding. They just replaced them. Though they're new. So Johnny Cash is representing Arkansas. Like, who's the biggest Kansas celebrity we could put? Like, is it Kirstie Alley?
Barry Sanders.
Barry Sanders.
Yes.
Yeah. What about Paul Rudd? Can we put Paul Rudd?
Is Don Johnson from
Barry
Kansas?
Sanders. I'll say it again.
Yeah. Barry Sanders is a big one.
I don't know. No, I guess he was from Missouri. I was going to say maybe Pujols, but he's from Missouri.
What about
Yeah.
John Brown? Can we just have a
There
statue
you
of
go.
John
That
Brown?
would be awesome. He is the most, no matter what you say about him, it's true. You can say, oh, man, John Brown, he fought slavery. He's the man. Yeah. John Brown was a terrorist. Yeah. It doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter. It's true.
He was all the things.
Yes, he was all of it.
Freedom fighter, murderer, whatever.
Yeah.
Sweet beard.
He did have a sweet beard.
At least in the pictures.
All right. So, yeah, that's the most we've ever talked about real stuff at any given time.
You're welcome.
You are welcome. Obviously, you heard DJ's voice.
That's weird. Just out of nowhere.
Yeah, he just popped in, and we're going to talk to him coming up next. We're going to talk about quote-unquote true stories right after this. All right, we're here. We've already been talking like half an hour. It's going to be on the uncut archives of Pop Culture Pastor. Of what
Every
we
time
talk
I
about.
come on. Every time.
Yeah.
You know what? Your show today was eerie.
Oh, my radio show.
Yes, with your wife.
Yeah.
Wife is straight beast too. I was like, Dave, shut up. She was on a roll.
We do a radio show on KFEX 93.1. You can look it
Dave.
up online.
So good today.
Thank you.
Both shows. So good. Y'all nailed it today. It's the dynamic of your relationship on the radio is pretty sweet too. It's just good. It's good. It's good morning stuff.
So if you want to listen, September 25th.
Yeah.
If you go to the KFEX
Oh, that's
website,
right. You can go back and listen. Can I say something? I know we're you invited me. Remember you asked for me.
Well, listen, if you're going to keep complimenting me,
I am
going
gonna
to
compliment
keep
you.
doing this.
I mean, the both of y'all to be married to somebody and y'all's perspectives, and then you're not like one up. You weren't because your wife killed it when she said the enemy literally tempted Jesus with the last thing he heard from God. Now that is so rich, just all of that. She said, this ain't really about the bread. This was about the last thing she heard, and she read it. This is my son. Come on, somebody. I'm preaching this on Sunday. And then he said, if you are the son. And so both of y'all's perspectives, not rival.
Right.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
I couldn't stop
compliment each
listening.
other.
Yeah, it was good stuff. It was anointing.
Yeah. So, right.
But I'm being honest. I'm not putting on. It's exactly what I need to hear today.
We do a show on a Christian radio station. If you're interested, it's fireescaperadio.com.
Yep.
Tune in.
Oh, man. Brilliant show.
Yeah. Thank you. DJ's here on Pop Culture Pastor. This is the podcast version.
Man.
He's joining us today. We're going to talk about true stories, but not true. Why don't you feel you had a direction you wanted to go? We're letting you take control here.
Yeah, so this is what happened. I was watching a movie. I'm going to talk about that in a second. And then I just opened up my laptop. Now, I'm trying to figure out what I can talk about because there's a show on and y'all can edit this out if I'm not supposed to talk about it.
Oh, okay.
But there's a show on Netflix called Narcos.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Familiar with it.
And it starts off with Pablo and all them, and it kind of takes you on a journey of the drug culture in South America, including Mexico.
Is Pedro on that show?
Pedro is.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll open my Apple book there, and I'll just make fact checking. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing how spot on it can be. As a matter of fact, it bleeps out names sometimes because they want to be that accurate sometimes. Sometimes it's more accurate than chosen. So it's like, so I was sitting there going, I wonder things that are based on a true story. So then I went and I looked up Remember the Titans.
Oh no, you didn't. Don't do it for any sports movie based on a true story.
Didn't sell.
And then I started going on a journey, and my heart kept breaking.
Yeah.
And my heart kept breaking. And I just thought, the devil is a liar for real. It should be called Hollywooden. That's what it should be called. So I have honorable mention because some of these movies we know, like we know Pocahontas.
Oh,
right.
Yeah, right.
We know about Pocahontas.
What?
But so I wanted you to see that, like that 1995 movie. Yeah, Pocahontas. Okay. So we got that.
I hope at the end of this we have like at least one movie where
I have several
where we're like that was pretty much what happened.
I have several.
Okay.
I did that.
Okay.
Because I know Dave's personality.
Yeah.
I did go through, and so I did some hard work, and I did go through, and I said, okay, I'm going to list some movies that match up right.
It's probably Michael Bay's Pearl Harbor.
So when I said that, because you guys texted me and said, okay, so what do you want from us? I'm very selfish. I didn't think about you guys.
You don't have to think about us.
So I was like, so I don't know when you guys heard the idea, what were you thinking?
Well, I first and foremost always go to sports as well when I hear about true stories not really being true. Because for me, the feeling you felt when researching Remember the Titans is the feeling I felt
with
when
Rudy.
with Rudy.
Yeah, that's probably the number one.
So for me, I go the horror scary genre because oftentimes the real story
is more intriguing.
A lot more intriguing. Look at Amityville or The Exorcism
or
of
the dude
Emily
with
Rose.
the chainsaw. Now I will say there is a movie that I have that's in my honorable mention called The Strangers.
Oh, hey.
And it's terrible. None of that happened.
What?
None of it's true. The only thing that was true was the masks. The rest of it, no couple ever existed.
So it was basically the Wyatt Six.
They basically basically weaved in. They were afraid that if they didn't put that true story thing on there, that people would compare it to the Manson thing.
So yeah, and there's a couple weird Charles Manson based on true stories.
So they were trying to cover their. So I went to the movie theater and saw that, and then went and looked it up and found out that movie was not real. So, and it's a freaky movie. We're not advocating going to see this movie. This is a long time ago for me.
2008. Who's in this? Anyone in this movie? Scott Speedman and Liv Tyler?
I was going to say Liv's in this.
Glenn Howerton?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The movie's
Glenn
not
Howerton.
The movie's not bad.
America's second
Did you feel
favorite Glenn.
Did you feel like the movie was bad? I didn't feel like it was bad.
I enjoyed it.
It was a good movie.
Rotten Tomatoes says 49%.
Yeah, I didn't, but it's not real.
Yeah,
not
Rotten
real.
Tomatoes also doesn't care for the horror genre.
I don't ever pay attention to Rotten Tomatoes.
Well, you'd be terrible at the movie game.
He did okay.
He did. You're right. He did. We're not doing that today.
I'm terrible at the movie game. I agree. Another movie that made my honorable mention was Captain Phillips.
Yeah.
Tom Hanks. He does a great job. I just like my favorite scene is when the little, I don't know what country, he's like, I am decapitated now. That's
They're
me.
all from Somalia.
Somalia.
Right?
Yeah. He was actually. So here's what I want you guys to know. Here's what I want you to know. He did not sacrifice himself to be a hostage in order to protect other people on the ship. In fact, the real-life Captain Phillips was sued after the hijacking for allegations that his failure to comply caused the situation to escalate unnecessarily. While those accusations were never officially confirmed due to both parties reaching a settlement, the true story of Captain Phillips is far less heroic than this is in the movie.
Yeah, well, so what they don't tell you, I knew that movie was cap when I saw it because I'm like, wait, this is all corporate owned. Like he's doing a job, and every corporate structure anywhere. Like we learned this when you work for a convenience store. Yeah. They sell you, look, if someone shoplifts, don't chase them.
Yeah, don't chase them.
You let them go.
Let them go. Yeah, absolutely.
You call the police.
Yeah, I was in loss prevention at Kohl's.
But why do
in
they
Lawrence?
So why do they even have loss prevention if they don't want you to try and prevent it?
Because there's other ways to prevent it without you could just that's why Walmart has the greeter. That alone. Neighborhood watch, having people sit on their front porch actually prevents crime.
He's not there to greet.
No, they're there to prevent. They're there to let you know we see you.
Yeah,
I knew it.
So
we see you,
Thomas Hanks.
Yeah, Thomas Hanks.
He did another based on a true story, The Terminal.
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Right. And that one is vastly different.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that
guy died at the airport.
Oh, man. Yeah, that would have been a much more depressing movie.
Yeah.
Although they were pretty open. Who did that? Was that Zemeckis? Who did that movie?
Spielberg.
Zemeckis is something else.
They were pretty open about that, saying it's roughly based on something that actually happened, but it's not.
Yeah, the guy stayed there for like 18 years.
18 years in an airport terminal.
And
that would have been a way more depressing movie.
If and when we do a future Tom Hanks movie, I have a theory about 2000 and later Tom Hanks.
Okay.
But that will be for another pod.
Everyone hold on to that.
Yes.
Post 2000 Tom Hanks theory from Cody coming in a future pod.
Okay. I want more of that. Now, this is going to make Dave mad.
Uh-oh.
Sully.
Tom Hanks?
Tom!
That also made honorable mention.
Now, there was a lot of friction about that one.
Now, the reason why I put Sully on it, now, the feat in and of itself was amazing.
Yes.
Period. No doubt. Landing that plane on the Hudson River was intense. But it's also, like, they didn't fight him. It wasn't, and actually Sully gets so fired up about this, about how they treated, how they made the NTSB look. It really bothered him. Because they made them antagonists. And so Sully fought. The real life Sully fought in the movie. Do not put these people's names in the movie because it's not fair to them because this didn't happen. And so he's a good dude, but he's a really basic, boring, non-dramatic dude. And so he really fought against them putting their names in the movie because they're afraid they'd get some friction.
Wow.
The story is actually a really boring story with none of that stuff happening except him landing the plane.
I mean, it's boring for you, not the people that were on the plane.
Yeah, well, the actual yes, but watching the plane
outside that one event,
watching the plane land for 3 hours is not what somebody wants to do. It's like
so we hit a bird. We're in a landing sequence. We'll be down in 2 hours.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you have more Denzel movies based on true stories?
I'm working on this.
Okay,
I'm working on this.
As long as we're getting there, because Denzel
also where are you going? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I know there's 2 Denzel movies outside of Remember the Titans.
Hit me.
We didn't even talk about Remember the Titans, though.
Okay, so are you ready for Remember the Titans?
I know one thing.
Do you
Coach Herman Boone was a chain smoker. And Disney said we don't put smoking in our movies.
Yeah. He was also very, very hard. He got fired. Yeah. They won't say it was because of violence towards kids, but that's what they fired him for. They made him go to he stayed as a PE coach. Several things. One, this movie's set in like 1971 and all this desegregation, but that's not true. It was like 12 years after.
Oh, man.
They were already. None of the schools were like that. None of them. They all had been already desegregated.
Never mind. I don't want to know these things.
That's the first thing. The other thing is that team was ranked second in the nation at the end of the 71 season. They were 13-0, and 9 of their 13 wins were blowouts. Just so you know, nobody came close to beating them that year.
Right.
The whole camp stuff was fake. None of that really happened. The only thing that happened was they did go to Gettysburg to go on a tour, but none of that stuff happened. Bert Tier never got kissed by Sunshine. That never happened.
He
What?
didn't give the Gettysburg speech?
Yeah. The whole thing about the long hair never happened. There's no such thing as the Gettysburg speech. That was all made up. And then the big state championship game. The state championship game ended in a blow. This is what made me go on this journey. I looked up Remember the Titans, and I was trying to find out that state championship game, and I couldn't find it. And it turns out it didn't happen. It was 27-0. It was not that close. Ugh. And Bert Tier's car accident happened after the season.
No.
Bertel's car wreck actually happened after the celebration of the football team's banquet for such a good year they had. On his way home, his steering wheel messed up, and he got hit.
He wasn't grandstanding?
No.
Out in the intersection?
No.
It was a car mishap.
Yeah, it was car mishap after a banquet.
I don't know if I like this alteration.
All right, let's move on. Ruin some more movies for us, DJ.
I love it. I really, this journey has been good for me because, just so you know, me and Dave have this in common. I love storytelling. So that's why me and Dave are such good friends. And we could Dave's that dude I could go get me some jalapeno Cheetos and a case of Mountain Dew, and I could just sit on his porch about 3, 4 in the morning. Swatting mosquitoes because we just go back and forth telling stories. It might be a little hyperbole in there every once in a while, but we still could do it, right?
Especially with the jalapeno Cheetos. Keep those things away from me.
So I just love storytelling. And so let me go through the things that I think are the most ridiculous movies. The first one is Pursuit of Happiness.
Oh,
The Will Smith flick?
You're just going to kill me.
Chris Gardner. So this, okay, let me. Okay.
His son was younger.
Yes. So,
he wasn't with him.
So it's not like it was like bad. I debated on putting it in the honorable mentions.
Yeah.
It's got some good stuff. His story didn't need what my grandma would say, gussying up.
Yeah.
Okay. It did not need it, but they did it anyway. That's why I put it in the list. His story is so bad. He didn't need their help.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand why they couldn't. So he was definitely a medical equipment salesman. He didn't independently spend all of his savings on portable abundance like in the movie. He didn't run out of money like that. He worked for an actual company, but they did not pay him. Like he was making like minimum wage. He was not getting paid. He didn't get an interview by solving a Rubik's Cube. Remember that scene there? Okay.
Yep.
Nor he did not get arrested for parking tickets. Get this. This is what he got arrested for. He was actually arrested for domestic abuse.
Oh, no.
And then the cops tacked on the unpaid parking tickets after the fact. What's more is the movie admits the period where Gardner's girlfriend took their son away from him due to all the abuse and the lack of money. So it was like, you think they were just sleeping in bathrooms, or actually there was this beef with him and his girlfriend, and there was this custody dispute type thing going on, and she was trying to get the kid away from him because she didn't think he could take care of him. I thought that's a way better movie.
Yes. Yeah, actually.
That's why I put it in the list. I was like, it's actually worse because his story, when you listen to him interview, the anger that he had about the system and him not making it. And he's walking around with what I call dad anger. Dad anger is a special anger. I think real men want to be providers. And when you feel like everything that you're trying to do is keeping you from providing for your family in some kind of way. Now, if you're a stay-at-home dad, you want to be a good stay-at-home dad. You're still providing. You're providing stay-at-home skills. So no matter if it's a stay-at-home thing or whether it's a thing where you're providing monetarily, and he just felt like the system was against him and he couldn't get over the hump. So he had this anger, and what did he do? He go home and take it out on the woman and the kid.
Yeah.
And that's out of the movie. And I think that would have been a great discussion. In The Pursuit of Happiness, you ran over 15 people. So it's like,
Yeah.
yo.
Here's a question for you.
Okay.
I'm going to put on my capitalist hat.
Okay. Put on the capitalist hat. Okay.
Is Pursuit of Happiness actually just a capitalistic propaganda film, basically?
It could be.
Like, is it really, if you really examine it, is it good to mortgage and gamble everything to climb an invisible corporate ladder?
Do you know that carrot stick they've placed before us has been there the whole time? Now, I will say this as an African American. There's no country, to me, that has done for black people here in the last 60 years what America has done for black people in regards to, there's no Cat Williams in Great Britain. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right,
I'm talking about what America has done is amazing. There is a conscientious capitalism that can get people out of poverty. The problem is you can't have the people that are successful without the people that are failing. That's so I don't know how you fix that piece. I don't know how that gets fixed. I don't know what system actually is the best one. I just will say, is it a propaganda movie? To a certain extent, yes. You know, even with how we talk about who you were talking about earlier, Sam Walton, we talk about these stories, or even the Warren Buffetts, and they're such normal, everyday people. Can it give you this idea that you're just some guy in some coveralls and you can just go around and you can become, it's like, probably not. But they got to dabble that character before us, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
You're right. I think the real story well, honestly, a lot of the movies that we're talking about, they clean up the character in a way. They make them less human because we know humans are all broken. We all have brokenness running right down through the middle of us. So like the main character in most of these true stories, like Rudy or any of them, Coach Herman Boone, they sanitize them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that part of it is that you think if this character has all the odds stacked against them and they're as close to Jesus as humanly possible, and they finally overcome it, you're just going to embrace them even more.
Absolutely. That's the narrative we all tell ourselves, and it's all based off the gospel. I just think that the storytelling today does, can I say evolve before I get in trouble?
You can say
you
evolve.
can say-
Can pastors say evolve? Mm-hmm. I think we're ready to evolve and not change there not being a hero. I just feel like us, the friendship that the three of us have, you would almost think it didn't exist. And millions of people are doing it every day. Blacks, whites, Mexicans with deep, true love for one another, go through difficulty together. Where are those stories at? It's always us against each other. Or I'm rescuing the white people, or the white people. It's never just a black dude, a white dude, like Bad Boys going back to back. You remember Lethal Weapon?
Yeah.
So it's a very intriguing racial discussion because they're working together and they're not addressing the race, but they are. So what's the dude's name with the weird hair with the glasses? That helps you, don't it? He's really smart. He has a podcast. He's Cody's Peoples. He reminds you of Cody. Really, really smart. And he does a lot of history stuff. I love to listen to his podcast. I'll look on my phone here after you take a break, but I'll look him up. And he talks about Lethal Weapon from a racial standpoint. And it's so dope because there are all these little things that if you don't pay attention. Now, another 48 hours are total different. It takes racism straight head on, right?
Yeah.
Nick Nolte and Eddie Murphy go head up, but Lethal Weapon's cut from a different cloth. Even the scene where he goes, I'm Reggie Hamm, and he puts the cowboy hat on, and he goes in there with his toothpick in his mouth. So what I'm trying to say is that there's no movies that I can think of off the top of my head, and we should be able to think of. There's not enough storytelling where there are two people from two different upbringings, but they have this commonality, and they're working together. Neither one of them is rescuing the other. They're both encouraging one another. When they're down, the other person's up. And when they're up, the other person's down. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about the dynamics of ethnic groups and culture. And I believe that it's happening all the time, but nobody will tell the story. And I just feel like the stories that we tell ourselves form us.
Yeah.
And if it's always a story about a white person rescuing a black person, or a black person attempting to white people telling them that they're racist, that forms us to be what we're seeing today. And I just feel like what we have, there are a lot of people doing it in real time, and nobody's telling the story. Like, it's a shame. Now, and this ain't about me, but not one newspaper has come to talk to me in this area. How has nobody come to go, what is going on where there's an African-American male leading almost 600 white people to faith? Why isn't that being discussed? Not for the sake of me. Why hasn't I haven't had one podcast, one interview, not one person's asked me. We're pretending like it's normal, but we don't tell. It's so normal we don't tell the story.
Yeah. Well,
does that make sense what I'm saying?
It's not marketable. Nobody wants that story. Right now, we built this victim culture We don't want that story. We want the stories that convince everyone how terrible everything is.
I just think it's interesting that in my life, there have been beautiful people who don't look like me, who have done things for me in some of the lowest, even that I've caused the problem. And they have treated me and loved me, and I didn't have anything I could add to their life. They didn't rescue me. They just stayed my friend.
Yeah. So the one movie that
helped me, yes,
I could think of that sort of did it, but it was on a brief micro scale. And I mean super brief. And it goes back to my Denzel comment. It's a movie that doesn't get mentioned much, and it's loosely based on a real life story. Unstoppable.
Oh, okay. The train.
Yeah, the train movie. Because both guys, very broken, and they show you the brokenness. But then Chris and Denzel are like, they make a friendship on this, and they both need each other. Yeah. And that one's doing great, the other one's struggling, and then they flip-flop positions.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good. That's a good one. That's a good one.
So I don't know if that one's really like how it all played out. I have issues maybe with the physics. I'm not Neil to point it out.
And that's how the movie Flight is. It's like, it's not based on a true story, but it's still based on flying. That's just impossible. And so I didn't add that to this. But Denzel's other movie called Flight, it's not based on a true story, but somebody to be as impaired as him, and it's like super ridiculous. Yeah, super ridiculous.
Did John Q happen the way that it was portrayed?
Is that based on a true story?
That is.
I think
they put it at
loosely,
the end.
Yeah, I think it's loosely
loosely based on a real life story.
Well, they put loosely based. They say that it's practically fiction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like The Patriot with Mel Gibson.
Or the Titanic.
Oh yeah, The Patriot has definitely got all kinds of issues. And if you were a historian, you could get fired up about that. Now, the podcast I was talking about, which I think everybody should watch or listen to, is by Malcolm Gladwell.
Yes, I was thinking Malcolm.
Revisionist History.
Yep.
And there's an episode where him and a man discuss racial storytelling in Hollywood, and it's so good. My wife doesn't like podcasts. My wife listens to the whole thing. We're on a road trip. We were in West Virginia listening to it. You know what I'm saying? And it's just intriguing conversation. And so what I'm trying to say is, like, I just feel like we don't storytell very well anymore.
No, and that's part of the reason I think that theaters struggle, why the box office numbers aren't particularly great, and why there's so much content out there is because there really isn't a lot of great content. It is mid to basic content that is being put out, and so we just binge watch and we're like, well, this was okay.
For all the PCP listeners, though, I'm not at all saying there should be a movie about me. I just think it's interesting that it is rare that there is an African-American pastor at a church our size with primarily, what's the word? What is it, Anglo-Saxon? White? What's the political correct? I don't want to get in trouble. Caucasian membership.
To put even more emphasis on it, like, we're in a community that has at times had over 30 plus churches.
Absolutely.
And it's not a super gigantic community, and yet I think your life would make a great documentary.
I just can't believe nobody's talked about it. Like, I can't even believe, like, not even like the Joplin News. Like, I think it's very intriguing to me. If I was on the outside looking in, I would want to know, what is that Negro doing? I want to know, what is that Negro doing right there?
Okay, well, let's swing this back to
what I'm talking about. Do you know what my next movie is?
Well, hold on. I want to ask you a question, because I want to swing this back to pop culture in a way. Like, why do you think it is? So we used to like movies like this. We didn't. Look, if you didn't watch Remember the Titans and think this is probably over dramatized, like, I think we all assume that. Okay, how about Braveheart? Braveheart's famously liberties taken, and that was a great movie. Won Oscars,
Yeah.
and everyone
Or like
assumes,
300. 300's another one.
Yeah, but Braveheart, I think when it came out, was they were pretending. 300's not pretending. 300 is fantastical or whatever. Braveheart's pretending to be historical drama, and we know that there's some dramatic liberties that are.
But
taken
you know,
with it.
Snyder came out and said that even historians have said this is one of the greatest history movies. When he talked about 300, I'm just telling you, just so you know.
Well, 300.
He really felt like he was doing
Right. The Battle of Thermopylae, which is what he's doing a version of, is like one of the coolest historical military battles of all time.
Yeah.
It's just a great story. But I think we used to not care about it, but we like true stories. We like true-ish stories. And I think the reason, to go back to what Cody was talking about, where stories have become less engaging because we're not telling them well. I think we thought it would be more real by putting more of our political squabbles into it, or what we call woke. I don't like to call it that. I like to call it tokenism, because the person telling the story doesn't really care about your issue.
No.
They just are throwing it in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And because to them it's more real. And I'm just like, nothing could be more fake because of what you say.
Yeah.
What you say, it's like, so people that just spend all their time on social media believe that there are two sides in this country that hate each other and can't mix. Meanwhile,
we're doing it.
I know people who I'm friends with that
they're married.
They're different political sides here. Yet
I'm very familiar with that.
Yet on social media, you have people calling the other political across the aisle evil.
Yeah.
And I think that's why story suffers, because this has kind of invaded everything. And so, like, what is a true story?
Yeah, I get it. I hear you.
Like, you brought up Lethal Weapon. Why did we like Lethal Weapon so much? Oh, because maybe instead of depicting the black guy as the guy who's a rogue and let's depict him as a family man.
Yeah.
Because, there's black families. Imagine that.
Absolutely.
There are black men who are great fathers.
Absolutely.
You know, like,
absolutely.
That was what was so brilliant about that. I have no idea what the guy talked about.
Malcolm Gladwell. Yeah.
Malcolm Gladwell talked about with Lethal Weapon.
You're hitting it. You're on it. You like
but it's the white dude with the mullet who's kind of a rogue and crazy.
Yeah.
Pressing the limits of the rules.
Yeah. And Danny Glover just wants to go home. He just wants to go home. Take his shoes off. He's too old for. I'm too old for this.
I relate to Danny.
And so I think it's a very interesting time in that regards. But Ryan Wheeler preached a message back in May.
He's a pastor here in our local town.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Thank you for that.
We're giving you insight.
Sometimes I feel like we're at a kitchen table. I just wonder where the wings are at.
This is really a conversation. This is not a planned podcast. We're just having a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And Pastor Wheeler said there's 4 things that form people, and one of them was the stories we tell ourselves. That really hit me. I thought about that on the national level, like, we're not really storytelling. We have to add these little bitty elements in so that people, it's kind of like, it's like food to me. And so if you grew up in the South and you're close to the ocean, there's a different flavor in your food because of where you live. If you grew up in Phoenix, there's a different flavor. Tex-Mex, different barbecue flavor. Up in Kansas City, we put molasses in ours. In the South, they use vinegar and other things. Or mustard, different flavor based on where you live. And if your taste buds aren't used to it, you'll think it don't taste good because your taste buds, if you were based, everything you put was a sugar based, and then you move south and everything's mustard based, your taste buds are going, I don't like that. And so I think what they do with movies sometimes is they go, we got to kind of keep giving them a little bit of their sugar or they won't watch it. Instead of allowing. And there are some movies that take a chance, I guess you could say. And you either going to go, you're going to be that movie that everybody goes, okay, this is genius, or you're going to be like, that was a flop. But I'm just more interested in people that are going to be willing to take a chance to just kind of tell stories a little different.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to stray too far off the main road.
Yeah, that's a good conversation. We didn't know we were going to have that. That's always my bad. I do that every time I come on here, by the way.
Well, let's refocus on our true stories.
Yeah, so the next one is Catch Me If I Can. Catch Me If You Can.
Oh, another Tom Hanks.
No, this is Leonardo DiCaprio. Tom Hanks
Tom
is there.
Hanks
Yes.
was chasing
My
him.
bad.
Tom
my
Hanks.
bad.
Okay, so
My bad.
I've met the
I
guy
totally
that
forgot.
Leo plays.
Abigail.
Frank Abagnale.
Yeah, Frank Abagnale or whatever. Yeah.
Abagnale Jr.
Yeah, I'm not even going to go through this, Dave. You don't want me to. I mean, this is the longest.
I
one.
did not see Tom Hanks being the villain of this pod.
But
not
so I've met that guy. He spoke at Kansas Wesleyan the year after I graduated. I came back.
I forget you went to that college.
and I visited a friend.
If they do a movie about you, you need to change that. Have that changed. I would change that. I wouldn't put that in the movie. But go ahead.
And so this guy starts talking about like, yeah, my life wasn't quite like how Leo depicted it.
Absolutely.
But like because of me, there's all these encryption things on your checks.
Absolutely, yeah.
And on your credit cards. And like this is all because of how I outsmarted our system.
So I would have said,
And we don't know if he worked for the FBI.
my credit card
Yes.
got hacked a couple years ago. Where were you on that one?
He tells everybody he worked for the FBI, but there's no record of it.
They can't confirm it or deny it.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, he wrote fraudulent checks after he began work. He doesn't go clean.
No one does. Isn't that great? In the movies, they're like, I'm born again. And no more problems.
But that's still a good movie.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a great movie.
Yeah.
I love Catch Me If You Can.
It's too bad though. I guess I'm different than Dave in that I fell for some of this. I really didn't go into it going, oh, they're going to over dramatize it. I really thought they were going to try to stick with the.
So what's not correct in Catch Me If You Can? Just basically,
You want me to go down the list?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Oh
Tell
my
him.
gosh, guys!
Crush that
This
movie.
is too much. He said that he was
Down
never,
with Tom Hanks.
How do you say the guy's last name?
Abagnale.
Abagnale.
Yeah.
He said I was never a consultant on the film. I never met or spoken to Steve Spielberg. That's the first thing.
That sounds about right.
I understand that they now portray my father in a better light as he really was. That was at the beginning of the writing of this play. And so he was very concerned about that because if you watch, you can get on YouTube, he gives a talk at Google. That's where I got a lot of this from. Okay. He said he's only seen the movie twice. So when the media asked me what I thought about the movie, about what was right and what was wrong, I said, first of all, I have 2 brothers and a sister. So he's portrayed as being an only child. He says, in real life, my mother never remarried. There's a scene in the movie where she's remarried and has a little girl. That didn't really happen. In real life, I never saw my father after I ran away. In the movie, they keep having me come back to Christopher Walken in the film. That didn't really happen. I escaped off the aircraft through the kitchen gallery where they bring the food and stuff onto the plane, and they had me escape to the toilet. I thought he stayed close to the story, but pretty much all of that, there's a lot of stuff that was left out. He was very concerned about it being accurate because he said there's so much stuff that was left out and you're portraying real people. And so he talks about how, man, but then he goes, they really got this up about the FBI, right? I thought that was funny because the FBI is not co-signing this. And then he said, I really got most of my information from the 3 retired agents. So he thought that part stayed really close to what was going on. But other people that work for the FBI have said the movie's not good at all. They said that records show Abagnale, how do you say his name again? Abagnale was in the Great Meadow Correctional Facility in Fort Anne, New York between the ages of 17 and 20. And before that, but 6 weeks later, so like all the dates of how old he was and when he was in jail, and they were to make it more dramatic, they were putting times that he was in jail and he wasn't in jail, and there were some of that stuff just didn't happen.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's too bad.
But
Although
here's the best part, though.
I am comforted. Hold on, let me say this. Okay. I am comforted that I no longer have to be afraid of sitting on the toilet in an airplane.
Yeah, you're not going.
That movie made me believe I might just fall through.
Here's the best part, though. Here's the thing that I did my homework on.
Okay.
He did dress as a Pan American Airlines pilot.
Okay, yeah.
A lot.
He posed as a pilot, yeah.
And he was arrested in Georgia, and they showed that he cashed 10 personal checks with the Pan Am logo on it. And you know how much it was?
How much?
$1,500. That was the other thing. They really exaggerated some of the checks in the money.
Wait, it was total $1,500. Oh, he's small time.
Yeah.
Well, he knows if you write bigger checks,
And
it's going to draw more attention.
he did not pass the Louisiana bar.
Oh, bummer.
He was never an attorney.
Not a suit scenario.
And that stuff was debunked by journalists, not Like it wasn't like the American Bar Association. Journalists did their homework, and then they found out that there's a lot of this that's not true.
So I have a movie, and this one might get me kicked out.
Okay.
The Passion of the Christ.
Oh.
You didn't know I was going here.
No, I did not know that.
So
We both said in heart.
there is one scene in particular that when I was in seminary that they pointed out, it made one of my professors so angry. And I'm like, dude, you gotta let it go.
What was the bird scene?
No.
Oh, my grandpa got so mad at that scene.
So the issue was, in the Gospels, when they have the Last Supper, they recline at table. Jesus invents the world's first kitchen chair and table in this movie. And Mary makes a joke about it.
It's like, why are we doing this? This is weird. Yeah.
Who's going to use this?
Yeah.
And they kind of do a tongue-in-cheek thing, but there's a lot of things that they take some liberties with that aren't found in the Gospels or even some of those non-canonical books.
I'm glad The Chosen doesn't do that.
When the devil is carrying around that bald-headed baby, that's just so creepy.
Yeah.
That's just the creepiest. That scene, every time he just shows up and he's like petting this bald-headed baby, and the bald-headed baby sticks his head out and is like looking. It's like, that is just.
That's not in there.
It's not in there. But boy, they went for the creepiest devil award.
I had another professor at college that was like, this was just Braveheart set in Jesus' time.
He felt like it was that off.
That Mel Gibson movies are all the same, like Apocalypto.
But do you feel like that movie? But let me. Do you feel like that movie was that off that you're going to compare it to Braveheart?
That the brutality, that some of it, Jesus got whipped. You betcha. That Jesus got the cat of nine tails. Yep. But it just goes in on just all the torture. And that
But I think commentaries would back you on that. I've seen commentaries say he was almost whipped for 6 hours.
And so for him.
So how long do you think he was? I don't know. I'm not a theologian.
I'm not going to argue whether it was or wasn't. He was saying stylistically it was Braveheart. And that it's all about the blood and the violence. And Apocalypto, it's all about the blood and the violence.
But I'm trying to understand, because I was always taught that that's how Rome was. So no?
Well, okay.
Isn't crucifixion like the most terrible death there is?
Yes, but Christian culture has conflated the crucifixion itself as far as what it looked like. First of all, the big thing is the cross is not really a cross.
Okay.
So the crucifixion is actually what they used was an X.
X, yes.
Like like the Wolverine scene in Deadpool. That was an actual crucifixion thing.
And that's there's a lot of people that use that symbol instead of a cross.
Yes.
Yeah. But the other thing is the crucifixion itself was more of the thing. So I think what Cody is saying is they really play up the violence before the crucifixion, when really what Rome was after was to just hang you up there and let you wither.
Yes. I'm not saying it didn't happen. That don't take me my words out of context.
You're already defrocked.
Yeah. But essentially what this professor was saying was stylistic viewing.
I'm very big, for me, when I interpret scripture, I need somebody to show me the earliest person and them saying that. I don't care what some professor in 2024. I just don't trust people today.
Okay.
I like to see the earliest people that we can find and what they thought. I don't trust nobody today. I just don't trust them. Definitely, if they went to Kansas Wesleyan, please tell me you're not quoting somebody from Kansas Wesleyan. I have a hard time.
Kansas Wesleyan slander.
So
he threw down the gauntlet.
They didn't go there. They taught there. They went to Vanderbilt.
Okay.
Let's move on to a different movie.
Sorry.
So The Revenant.
The Revenant.
Yeah.
This is another one that made the list just because the actual story is better than the one that they cooked up in a lot of ways. That's why I put it on here.
So Oscar award nominated or Oscar award winning flicks tend to kind of have a common theme with them.
I had to do a lot of research on this one. This one was a little tougher. It's the real Glass, Hugh Glass is his name, did get abandoned by his group of travelers. However, it's highly debated whether Glass actually survived the fight with the grizzly bear or even fought a bear at all.
Well, that's the least shocking thing you'll hear all day.
So what's
I knew
more,
it.
there's never any evidence that the real life Glass had a son. This is a journalist's account, meaning that his traveling companion Fitzgerald didn't actually kill a child. The most surprising part of all this is that the actual Glass didn't kill Fitzgerald, he even seek revenge, making the fictional account of the historical figure much more mythical than accurate.
Yep. Just like Rudy. Just like Rudy.
And so this bear story is the one that's a big deal. A lot of journalists are all over this. They're saying that he didn't even have a Pawnee wife. So that's like the whole narrative of the film, right?
Yeah.
Wait, so his wife is fake?
Okay, hold on. So here's the thing. So you know how he seeks revenge on his companion Fitzgerald for his son's murder?
Well, which apparently he didn't have.
Well, Glass did. They say Glass did go looking for him and his companion John Bridger after they abandoned him. Okay, so they say that Glass actually was mad that they abandoned him. It had nothing to do with the son.
So they abandoned him and he found him and murdered him?
So no, actually, he found them and forgave him.
Whoa! Redemption!
Wait! That's a much better story. What are we doing?
There's not as much
So
blood and guts.
hold on. He forgives them and was later employed as a hunter for the U.S. Army garrison at Fort Union, North Dakota, before his eventual death in 1803.
What? I don't understand why we changed that part of the story. That's a much better story. It's so much less bleak. That movie's so bleak.
Oh boy! Even the way they filmed it, it's like filmed in Gotham City. It's like so. It's like, how did y'all? It just feels dark. It just feels cloudy.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought you enjoyed that. The last one I'll do, and then you can just shut your podcast down because I ruined this. I don't know why y'all invite me back. The last one we already talked about Rudy, which was just terrible. When I found out the Jersey thing was fake, that hurt Dave.
Oh, you know what hurts
Dave.
about Rudy the most?
What's that?
I don't even think it's the dramatization, the story. I think it's the fact that they all hate him.
Well, the coach actually believes in him in real life.
Yeah. The coach was not opposed.
Yes.
The coach was a friend.
Yes.
He liked Rudy.
Yes.
And to be fair, there were players that liked and loved Rudy, but Joe Montana came out and said they carried him off the field as a joke.
Yes.
I was like, no, why?
I heard you say that on your radio show.
Oh.
I was like, oh man, that's when I texted you guys. I got this thing I want to do because you said that on your radio show. Now, the movie that I think tops the cake is Argo.
Oh, hey.
Ooh, okay.
Another Oscar.
Argo
I don't know anything about why this is fake. This is the movie about the Beirut, the hostages.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Even my man. I don't know what it is about.
Ben Affleck.
No, the president at the time, President Carter.
Jimmy Carter. Yeah.
He's just an intriguing guy to me. Before I go to that, I want to tell you guys that I'm on a journey. I'm just going to tell you this because Dave's a historian. You can help me with this.
All right.
But I'm currently ranking the presidents from worst to first.
Oh,
that's
my new project.
Why is Andrew Jackson number one?
Actually, I think it's Buchanan.
I don't know anything
He's
about
the one. He's the president before Lincoln, before the Civil War. You're like, this dude. Oh my gosh. So this is another discussion for another podcast.
Yep.
I wanted to put that in your ear. I've been dying to tell you this. Okay. So
you must be really bored, but go on.
What I'm trying to do is to get away from, I think I indulge in entertainment. So I've just started trying to latch myself onto some things that makes my mind work a little more.
Okay.
And so I'm reading some books on American history and studying the presidents. And I'm just trying to find out with what we got and what we're looking at. Like, we have bad memories. The American people today have bad memories. There's so much history we just don't know. And you got a generation of kids. I have a kid that is my intern. He didn't even know what a CD burner was. They just don't know anything.
Malcolm Gladwell talks about bad memories as well.
And so I want to kind of re-educate myself because I think if we did, we find out we've been here before. Not that this ain't the last days and all that. I'm just saying, like, I really think we just don't know stuff. And we glorify people because they don't intimidate us no more. So we can look back and go, oh, this guy was great. But to the people of that day, it was like, he didn't do anything for them. So anyway, that's what I'm doing as opposed to watching TV. Yeah. Okay, so Argo. Now, not everything in the film is exactly consistent with reality. I can say that as a nice way. I wanted to put something down on paper that one of the major differences between this movie and the real life account is the involvement of Canada.
Oh.
Canada was the reason why. We were the B people. Canada was the stars.
Oh.
Yeah, Canada's politicians and intelligence personnel were over the entire operation.
Canada has intelligence?
Yeah. On Tuesdays. Argo makes Canada's role in the international rescue mission appear far less significant than its actual efforts, reducing the Allegiant Nation to virtually just like some enthusiastic spectators, like, go Americans. So we're definitely the hero. In fact, Canada was initially given all the credit for the successful rescue mission in life because the CIA did not want to discuss their involvement at the time.
Wow.
So then the movie, which I actually like the movie. I'm not going to lie.
It's a great movie, yeah.
I actually like this movie. I watch it almost once a year. I like the movie. I'm still going to like the movie. I love the story of the movie. So don't get me wrong. But he almost makes it seem like it was all America. Okay.
But it's not.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Ben Affleck's movie, of course, about the CIA taking a fake movie to Iran. The movie wasn't called Argo, by the way.
Well,
yeah.
no.
Yeah, no.
It was Star Wars.
But the reality is the scene where the CIA poured through tons of scripts trying to find the perfect fake movie was fake news. They knew almost from the start what movie they would fake make, and it wasn't called Argo. Now, I'll get to that in here a second. Jimmy Carter addressed the controversy, and this is what he said. I found this in a CNN interview. This is like on TV. I quote, I had to do the whole transcript thing. 90% of the contributions to the ideas and the consumption of the plan, consummation of the plan was Canadian. And the movie gives almost full credit to the American CIA. And with that exception, the movie is very good. Okay. Uh-huh. He says, but the whole idea of America being a big deal is not the thing here.
Well, maybe what we should have said was the Americas.
Yeah. Well, that was a confusing thing for me from that movie, because I remember when that movie came out, I was a kid, like, albeit young.
Yeah.
But as I grew, I remember people were mostly frustrated with Jimmy Carter.
Absolutely. Jimmy Carter got a lot of heat for this.
He got a lot of heat for, quote, doing nothing.
Nothing, yes.
And so it would have been, I think, pretty common knowledge that we didn't do a whole lot. And
yeah.
So I think it would be unsurprising. But that is weird, because you mentioned that we do build up, especially our political leaders. It's like similar with Reagan.
Yeah.
Both Jimmy Carter and Reagan kind of get inflated as the years go on and we get farther removed from them.
Yeah. He was not liked. Now, I would challenge everybody to go back and listen to Jimmy Carter's last speech before he left the White House. Wow. Prophetic. Yeah. I don't say prophetic. It's prophetic.
Okay.
Oh.
Go get on YouTube, type in Jimmy Carter's last speech before. Oh, Dave.
I'll have to check it out.
I mean, shots everywhere. So now, one more thing. The film was criticized because it kind of makes fun of the British and New Zealand in the movie. Their embassies turned away American diplomats, but it's not true. In fact, both embassies together with the Canadians helped the Americans. The British actually were the ones who initially hosted the American diplomats. However, the location was at an undisclosed place, and they didn't want anybody to know. Also, the location that they were originally at with the British was deemed unsafe, and it was targeted also, not just the Americans. So a lot of times you think only America got targeted, but the British were also targeted, and there were riots there. And so they moved them to Canada, their ambassador's residence, to be a safer location. And same thing with New Zealand. They had diplomats they hired too, and they actually hit them. And they actually are the ones, New Zealanders were the ones who drove the Americans to the airport when they made their escape. And the British diplomats also assisted other American hostages beyond the escape group of 6. So when the Americans left, the British kept helping the Americans that were still left over there. And Bob Anders, the U.S. consular agent played in the film by Tate Donovan, said, they put their lives on the line for all of us. We were all at risk, and I hope no one in Britain will be offended by what's said in the film. The British were good to us, and we're forever grateful, end quote.
Wow.
The last little thing that I did, this is just DJ, and I actually added my first thing to Wikipedia.
Oh, you added something to Wikipedia. Okay.
Yeah, I gave it a shot.
All right.
There's a Hollywood sign that's shown dilapidated. Dilapidated, that
Dilapidated? Yeah.
There's this Hollywood sign. It's all jacked up at the beginning of the movie. And I was like, that's not right.
In Argo?
Yeah, I knew that sign had been repaired by watching from a documentary I watched. And so I did some research, and that's not how the sign looked. It was repaired.
Oh, wow.
So I just threw that one in there because I was good. I tried to put that on Wikipedia. I don't know if it ever made it.
One more thing before we go. Do you have a movie that stands out as like the truest movie ever told?
Well, because I'm at church. We had testimony night, and I thought, okay, am I ready for this podcast? So I was just sitting here thinking, like,
DJ's about to say the Passion of Christ.
No, actually, that wasn't on my radar. I really need to go back. Because my grandpa struggled with that movie. There were just so many things he struggled with that I just was kind of like you did with Remember the Titans. I was like, oh my gosh, that's not real. With Passion of the Christ, like, oh, they're just using creative control there. Like, and my grandpa was like, finally the birds, and he got so mad. And that's Mel Gibson's whole thing with seeing somebody suffer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That based on what you guys, I never knew that about old Mel, and I don't know. I put down Selma. I felt like Selma. Great stuff. Pretty spot on. I've been there. I think everybody should go there no matter where you stand. I think it's a great American story. Schindler's List, I think is a beautiful story. The film's lesson alone is a timeless one. And I did a lot of stuff on that. Y'all going to think I'm weird, but The Sound of Music is spot on.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, Sound of Music is really spot on. 12 Years a Slave is spot on. I even going to say this, Goodfellas did Scorsese, even down to the suits, the cars, the cups they used, all of them had to be from that time period. Just really, really good job with that, with how that movie's made and what he considered to be true. And most of the time, Scorsese will inflate things not for dramatization, but to protect people. And so, I feel like there's a few movies out there that are pretty spot on. And even though like Tombstone ain't, I still love it.
I love Tombstone, but it's super cartoonish.
So one that was very close for me, and it's the only one I'll mention, and it's a weird one. You won't see it coming.
Of course, with you, yes.
Malcolm X.
Spike Lee. So, and this is not me trying to sound. So, I read the book way before the movie came out, and that's how I learned about the Boxer Rebellion was from that book. He covers the Boxer Rebellion in his autobiography beautifully with China. He covers that so awesome, and I didn't know nothing about that. I knew nothing about that, so I read that book. I agree with you.
Especially the FBI stuff.
The way that Spike Lee handles Malcolm, Denzel almost looks like him. Mm-hmm. The way that they covered that story and just how, and it doesn't come out in the movie, but the book does a good job of explaining like opiates and the Boxer Rebellion and how they get to America. And he does a good job of attaching systemic stuff to how it crept into his life. And I don't feel like Malcolm's doing the thing that a lot of liberals do today. It's not a big leap how he covers it in the book. So that's why the book's a good read. So well done. And it almost didn't make it.
Oh, wow.
Bill Cosby and several others had to step up to help that movie get funded. It almost didn't make it Wow. Bill Cosby had to step up. Several cats stepped up to help that movie get made. I think they should show that in schools. I think everybody should watch that movie.
They had me watch it at Kansas Wesleyan.
Yeah, I think everybody should watch that movie.
Before we go, I'm about to blow y'all's mind. We have not mentioned my absolute favorite sports movie based on a real live event. And it is about golf. And it's called...
that Tin?
Nope, not Tin Cup. It's called The Greatest Game Ever Played.
Oh,
It came out in 2005. It stars Shia LaBeouf. and it's about
Oh yeah.
Francis we met in a golf matchup he played against golf giants Harry Vardon and
I don't know any of these people.
gosh, well, I didn't know any of them either until I watched this movie, and then I read up on like the actual thing. It's about an amateur winning the U.S. Open, and it's like
Yeah, that's a big deal.
way back in 1913. It's a fantastic movie.
Okay, I gotta check that out. I didn't know about that movie.
Greatest game ever played.
The only golf movie I think I've ever watched is Happy Gilmore. That's the only golf movie I've ever watched. I think.
Also loosely based on a real story. No,
Old Chubbs. That's my uncle.
I hope y'all enjoyed this conversation. A little bit different than what we normally do on the pod, but every time DJ comes on, it is a little bit different. We have more of a conversation style.
So as we kind of close, so everything's just kayfabe, huh? Is that our conclusion?
Yeah. Well, history is even.
Yeah.
We don't. Yeah. No one really gets a true looking glass through the looking. Through the two-sided mirror view of history. History. They say history is always written by the winners. That's weird. It doesn't always work out that way. History is just always told through like this kind of kayfabe lens, where there's always humans writing it, right? There's always humans telling the story, and they have ways they feel about it and stuff. So, So
is there any movie that's like a black and white movie from 60 or 70 years ago that has shaped your understanding of the world? I'm talking about an old movie, like when you were a kid, that's black and white, and you watch it, okay, now that movie. Because the reason why I say that is because sometimes people are fearful that somebody's going to watch this 100 years ago and think this is how it was. But I don't think anybody's going to do that. I don't think anybody does that.
Some of the old war movies that I saw when I was young, like Tora, stuff like that, made me like realize that was where like some of the first things I remember watching were like, oh man, war's not cool.
Well, so Malcolm Gladwell's really big on this, that the West was not the West as Hollywood portrayed it.
Yeah, it's terrible.
And so he feels like that's another story that we tell ourselves that shaped us to become a violent nation. And because it just wasn't like that. The guys weren't just running around just going boom, 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 boom up. That should have been quicker,
Yeah.
He catfished and tailed me and called me a lie,
Crossfished.
Like, that's just not how it was. And so it's just interesting that you say that, like, if that's the case and 50, 60 years from now, somebody watches a movie that's inaccurate and they're just slipping in stuff to kind of propaganda, is like, that's too bad.
Yeah.
That's just too bad. But all right, good stuff.
It's interesting. Tell us what y'all think about true, quote unquote, true stories.
Is it Cap?
Is it Cap? The answer is most definitely, probably.
Yeah.
Most true stories.
Is it Cap?
Of course, there's dramatization to any story we tell.
Help me,
That's
Lord.
the point of a story. Yeah. And but yeah, some of the movies we talked about, boy, they made up a lot of it. So yeah. Thanks for listening, and make sure to subscribe to the pod, rate us. That helps us share all our social media posts.
PCP.
I don't know if I'm down with the alphabet because it makes us sound like a drug.
Is there a drug called PCP?
Yeah,
You betcha.
yeah. Well,
There is? Okay.
We're taking
My
it back.
bad.
We're taking it back.
My bad. I didn't know that.
Name it and claim it.
We'll see you next time.
Maybe I knew that.
Pop culture pastor. Pop culture pastor. Pop culture pastor.